Hello and welcome to another episode of Bare Bones Wargaming, a show with no bells, no whistles, no frills, just a man, a camera, and his game. This episode, we are going back again to fly the unfriendly skies. Dun 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 dun. Again, my best interpretation of one of the many tracks from the Battle of Britain, which, by the way, if you like the movie, if you have seen it, you can get the soundtrack on CD. I have it, I enjoy it, but I don't want the copyright police bothering me. So, that's why I'm humming it for you. So, back to this Battle of Britain again. Alright, now, last episode went over basically like the turn sequence here, you know, how things are done in between turns as you're progressing the game. So let me just bring you up to speed what I decided to do here and what has happened. The stuff I did off camera, if you will. Now, if you recall, we drew 10 cards and I ended up choosing, as you can see, just 4 of them. That's it. Okay, basically I used all my strategy cards, which, believe me, in this game you will want to do that. Okay, and I put my bombers on the card, and you put your fighters on the first 3 raids of the day, and then after that, the turnaround on the clock, which we'll go over here in a little bit, that will bring you back fighters when they're fresh, depending on how much they engage the enemy, how much they're involved in combat, of course, on their particular mission. Again, bombers only go once per day. So what I've done here is I've set this up on 2 different hours at 0600 and 0800, you know, basically blasting away at the day. And I'll just show you here, because this one's got a little more of a stack to it here. There we go. So as you can see for Kenley here, I got a bunch of ME-109s, a few ME-110s, and of course a bunch of bombers there. Typically I have a tendency to go heavier on my raids. Yes, it increases the risk of the raid rendezvous, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But the rewards, well, to quote Han Solo, well, more one, or actually, I guess Luke Skywalker's first in that sequence, after he says the rewards will be what? Well, more wealth than you can imagine. I don't know, I can imagine quite a bit. Same thing here with the victory points. You walk away from this, it works well, you end up big. Or it's kind of like, you know, a 4th down fake punt, you know, for a coach. You look like a genius if it works, and if it doesn't, well, yeah. So, anyway, so that's what one of my typical raids look like. And again, you can play around with things as well. Okay, so basically my idea here of having raids 2 hours in a row is to basically have the British preoccupied, and I'm trying to focus on mostly one area here, sectors 111, 211, and 711, which are all next to each other, with the 410 thrown in there on the far left, but that's more of a distraction thing, as we'll see here in a moment. Okay, other things that went on off camera at the same time was the repair phase. So as you can see over here, I got lucky with that. Beachy head radar still suffered heavy damage. The light damage over here was automatically repaired, so too bad for that. But this one here, the repair die roll was a 6. You get a repair number on the card. Here's the card I used, and this one had a 4. So if you roll less than that 4, it basically fixes it. If it's equal to, then you flip it over to light. But if it's higher than, it stays the same, and I rolled a 6. So unfortunate for the British, good for me. And then the weather. Okay, how's the weather? Unfortunately, the weather is not so hot. Broken clouds in Loot Float 3. Patchy clouds in Loot Float 2. And the weather can affect the game both in terms of rendezvous and also in terms of bombing runs. Okay, which you would think about with bombing runs, of course, but the rendezvous thing is something that people probably don't think about a whole lot. Okay, so we're ready to roll. It's 0600 hours. You can see up here is where the clock is, okay, going all the way down to 1800 hours each day. So, as Barnum and Bailey would say, or I guess as they used to say, so I don't think they exist anymore, let's get this show on the road. Alright, so first things first, we got our raid deployment. So we take our raid card from up above the track here, and I like to bring it down and put it right in front of me. So one nice thing about solitaire games is basically you can do whatever it is you care to do. Okay, so I bring my 2 cards down here, and I've got 3 110s that I assigned to this because this is a minor raid. You can do 1, 2, 3, and I decided to play this high speed raid card here. Now again, the Germans get strategy cards. If you want to make the game more challenging, don't play with the strategy cards. The strategy cards are a big help. Okay, so this raid consists only of ME-110 and Gruppen assigned to strafe. It does. No rendezvous check, okay, and doesn't count 4 other raids in the time segment. Subtract 2 from the detection roll. So that's all good for me. And basically I did this as a distraction. I want to pull away some British fighters from basically messing with my more important missions as I go after other targets that are more important than that, namely industry, airfield, and a radar station. Okay, so once you got your raid deployed, then you got the British detection phase. Now the British basically for detection, and not surprisingly, as with a lot of solitaire games, you got lots of charts here, okay? And as you get the hang of this, this will go faster and faster. But basically for the British detection, you roll a die, okay? And then you start adding the modifiers in. Now the first modifier that you're going to deal with here, let me zoom in a little bit more, is the observer core values. You can see there are 3 values here: clear skies, patchy clouds, and broken clouds. Now this is taking place in Luftfloat 3. Remember, they have broken clouds, so 0, okay? So the observer core is of no help to us here. Alright, now the next thing you look at is how many undamaged radar stations. As you can see, there are 3 radar nets here, 1, 2, and 3. All of them are undamaged. For each undamaged one, you can add 2 to the die roll, so that's going to be plus 6, okay, to it. Now the last modifier you're going to have is how many Gruppen are actually in the raid. In this particular one I have 3, so that modifier is a plus 1, so that gives us plus 7, plus my die roll, which was 2, plus 9. But remember, for my strategy card, I'm going to subtract 2. Now, the place we work all that out at is, and let me zoom out here a little bit, is right up here on the detection chart. Okay, and everything's here, you know, all the modifiers, and then we're going to go ahead and do all of that. So again, we had 6 for the radar stations. Okay, we had 1 for that. 7, 2 is 9, but 9 minus 2 is 7. So we basically go here and we put it on the track where the final value is here. In this particular case, we're going to get 2 pieces of information every time you do this. Okay, you're going to get your warning level and your intelligence level. The warning level here is late, so basically the British are going to be caught with their pants down, so to speak, bugger, bugger, bugger kind of thing. Okay, they're not going to be ready for that, and we'll see how this is going to affect things here in just a minute. The intelligence level basically impacts how many British squadrons actually intercept, because basically what you do each turn is you figure out how many British squadrons could intercept, and then you will work on figuring out how many actually intercept. Okay, the AI in this game determines priorities based on modifiers, and of course the almighty die roll, which is the big element of chance, the friction of war, if you will, in this particular game. Okay, so once you figure this out, now we're going to come back here to the target card. Okay, now remember our target card here, we are going after the radar station down here at Worth. Okay, now once you have your warning level, okay, you've got 4 levels of warning here: none, late, sufficient, and early. Of course, the closer you get to the right, closer to early, the better off you are. The further left you go, the better for the Luftwaffe, of course, playing this particular Eagle one. So remember, we had late warning, so we're going to look at this column here. All right, now we've got the sectors here, sectors that are en route, Germans have to fly over, and everybody that's in range. Okay, now because it's a late warning, only 2 units may come from sector 410. Okay. Now, generally speaking, let me go up here to Sector 410, right here. Okay. Generally speaking, you're going to pull squadrons from there based on how many there are, things like that. I like to do it randomly with die rolls, unless, of course, you know, there is the same kind of planes, Spitfires. They're all Spitfires here, and I'll just choose any two here, so I'll just choose B and C. Okay, so these two are the possible two that can respond to our raid, which strictly speaking is right here. We're going after Worth with this strafing raid. So how well you can strafe a radar station, but remember, my goal here is to distract, to pull squadrons away. So it didn't quite work as well as I wanted it to, but again, I wanted to show you a minor raid too with some different modifiers and stuff. Okay. Then the next thing you're going to do after that is you would do a raid rendezvous check, but remember, by our strategy card, we don't have to do that. So we'll see that in the next raid that we're going to do here in a moment. All right. Then after that, you find out the British raid response. So you're going to take a die and roll it. This is a 5 this time. So we have a 5. And then we got a boatload of modifiers here on this chart. Okay. So I'm not going to go ahead and, you know, basically I'll go through them verbally. You know, if you have a copy of the game, you can follow along. But I'm not going to keep it on camera the whole time. So, a couple different things. I'll talk about them as I go. One of them is the date range, okay? There's a modifier for dates starting August 20th, but this is August 13th, so no modifier there. Target sector is Group 11. Well, it's Group 10, so no worries there, okay? Primary target is radar net or airfield. Ding! It is a radar net, so +2 to the die roll, okay? Target is deep. That will say on the target card, and this target is clearly not deep because, of course, Worth is right here on the coast. Warning is very early. No, we know it was late. Okay, so far still only +2. Intelligence is accurate. Nope, we have poor intelligence. Okay, intelligence is limited or accurate. Okay, nope. Intelligence is poor and raid is major. Nope. Target card yet to be resolved in the same time segment. So that would be a -1 modifier. But no, it does count toward the limit. Time limit segment, and it basically in each time segment you can only do 3 raids maximum. Okay, I usually never go that many. I usually go 2 and then try to stack them up, but that's just my own personal strategy, which, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, sometimes you eat the bear and sometimes the bear eats you. So the only modifier we had here was +2 for the radar net. So 5 + 2 is 7, obviously. And now what we'll do is we are going to take a look at these columns here. Okay, we find the 7 and we find out that, hey, it's low priority. Notice the priorities are minimal, low, high, and all out. Then we cross-reference how many squadrons are in the response pool. We only have 2. And then we find out what the number is. Now this number is actually the number that you pull out of the pool, which is 0. So actually the squadrons are not going to change the pool at all. Okay, so now we know how many are there, but we still got to find out whether they actually intercept, which is where the intelligence part comes in. Now remember, we had poor intelligence. It is a minor raid. Squadrons in the pool is 2. So 2 of them will be going on this against the minor raid. So basically both squadrons are. So in that sense, my strategy did work. I did manage to pull off the British squadrons from Sector 410. So they will not be available whenever I go to bomb in Sector 111. Okay? So, once you've done all that, then you have your raid approach event. Remember that purple deck I showed you in the last video. Okay? So let's see what we get for the approach event. Clouds inhibit hunters. Okay, if the region is patched under broken clouds, all A Gruppen in the hunt box leave the raid. Well, we don't have to worry about that because we have no hunters in this one, because this is basically a strafing raid. So everybody is in the bomber box. Okay, now we would normally have a hunter attack, and we'll go into detail on that on the next raid. Okay, but let me zoom in here so you can see the raid box here. So if you look at the raid box, you can see that we've got couple of areas here. We have the hunt box, which is basically where the intercepting British squadrons fight the ME-109s. Got the bomber box, where of course the bombers are naturally enough, and if the British can get through, they will engage the bombers. Close escort box, which you can put ME-109s or 110s in there as you wish, and then the channel patrol. Okay, every time you launch a raid, there's going to be some ME-109s that are going to be over top the channel doing their thing, basically patrolling it. Okay, so keep that in mind whenever you're figuring out how many fighter squadrons you want to deploy in a given situation here. Okay, well, there's nobody in the hunt box, and of course, if you notice here, there's charts, as always, information here to help you with this. So there's no grumping in the hunt box, so all the squadrons are going to go to the bomber box. Okay, and of course, they'll match up with this guy not being engaged. The number of British squadrons will engage an equal number of enemy units in the bomber box. Okay, so here we're going to have our little fight in this box. But before we do that, we have to do the raid target event. So let's see what the target event is going to be here. The target event is flak. Reduce all A gruppen in the bomber box. Well, that's unfortunate. This guy gets flipped. Alright. Well, better this than a big raid, right? Right. Okay. So now the squadrons will attack. Alright. Now, the way the combat works in this game is, and let me zoom back out so we can see this, and then we'll come back in. Okay. You have this chart. Okay. Basically, you're figuring out how many gruppen you have, and then you're figuring out how many combat factors there are involved here. Okay. So, in this particular situation, we have 2 gruppen that are being engaged. Okay, so we're going to use the 2 column. Now notice there's columns for depletion, because as the Luftwaffe goes and you don't have replacements for your losses, they can start to get depleted. And that can of course affect things big time, so keep that in mind too. So we have no depletion, so we're going to be using this column here. Okay, now the way we figure out our combat value is by the performance value of the planes. And the German planes actually have 2 numbers on them. Okay, the first one is their bombing, or in this case strafing value, which is a 2, and then the second one is their performance. So these ME-109s have a value of 2. These 2 Spitfires have a value of 4. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, and that total is going to be, well, obviously 8 and 4 is 12. So we're going to go down our 2 column here and find the 12 spot, as it were. Okay, and again, roll the die. And let's see what happens here. So we roll a 4. Okay. So I want to go ahead and let me see how I want to do this. Let's do it like this. I'm going to show one of the other tables, something I rarely do, but I'm going to move you way over here because I don't like to move around too much if I can help it. Okay. But I'm going to do it here because there are a lot of charts to this game. Okay. So keep that in mind. All right. So again, we had 2 gruppen. Okay. And there was a combat value of 8, and I rolled a 4. So then you come across here, and we go to where the 4 result is. All right, let's zoom in on that a little bit more. There we go, so you can see. A little more. I feel like Cheech and Chong, that Christmas skit about the magic dust. A little bit to the reindeer, a little bit for Santa Claus, a little bit more for Santa Claus, a little bit more for Santa Claus. Okay, and I like to use the die to mark here. Okay, and then you basically have, show you the top of the columns, A, B, and C. Every single air unit has a letter code A, B, or C. Okay, so sometimes if you want to, you can load up like with a bunch of C's and take your chances and hope you don't get whacked. Best thing to do is kind of balance things though, just in case. Alright, so let's see what happens here. So in this particular one, any A gruppen would suffer light loss. Well, there was no A gruppen engaged here. Okay, B ones have to be aborted. Now, when units end up suffering some kind of result like that, there is, let me just show you here, without, it's going to be too blurry, isn't it? Yeah, so you got your combat damage charts. Okay, and that basically tells you what happens here. So this particular one here, it is a full gruppen, it is aborted, it goes to the in-flight box, reduced. Okay, so it will not be able to even strafe here. Alright, so that is the B one that I had. Now notice the C has a dash, so they got through no sweat. For the British, A's and B's suffered a disrupt result. So we do have a B. They got disrupted. Okay, and again, you just consult the combat damage chart. And full squadron in the bomber box. Disrupted goes to in-flight reduced. So just like the German plane was. But, C's suffered light loss. Okay, so we have one C squadron, so it got roughed up. So it's going to go to the light loss box, and the Germans are going to pick up 1 victory point. Okay, for the Germans in this game, victory points are gained and lost through light losses, which are worth 1 victory point, heavy losses, which is worth 2, and then of course the Germans can score 1 to 3 on bombing, which we'll get to here in a second when we actually do this strafing in a moment. So this actually went through pretty well for the Germans, which is very unusual given the situation here. But, you know, hey, fortune favors the brave, so away we go. Alright, so that is the combat there, which again was just the bomber box because we didn't have any hunters, but we will have hunters in the next raid that I'll do for this video, and probably the last raid I'll do for this video, quite frankly, too, as I walk you through this. Okay, back to the map. Hold on tight. Woo! Here we go. Alright, alright, alright. Here we are. Okay, so now the last thing you're going to do is the bombardment. And again, there's a chart for this. No big surprise there. Okay. You figure out how many combat factors you have, okay, and you got a die roll, and there's different things here that can affect things, okay. I have a value of 3, which is not very much, okay, and we have broken clouds, which shifts the 2 columns to the left, which basically makes it a 1, so basically I need a 6 if I want to do any kind of damage. So, hold on, here we go. And again, to quote the Battle of Britain, here we go. Oh, gee, look at that. It's a 6. Kaboom, kaboom. Alright, so that's 1 point of damage. So that gives me another victory point as the mighty Luftwaffe, taking me now up to -10. Woo! And that puts light damage on Worth, knocking that radar station out for the rest of the day. Alright, so actually ended up being a pretty successful minor raid. Okay, enough of that clowning around stuff with minor raids. Let's do some heavy stuff. Let's do some meaty stuff. We're going to do a big raid. Alright. Alright, so moving after the bombardment, okay, we are going to move the German Gruppen in their in-flight box here, which is right over here, and then move them to the clock. Now, if you have reduced squadrons, those ones will end up going ahead on the clock for slots. So we started at 0600, 1, 2, 3, 4, they won't be available until 2. If it's a full Gruppen, that's 3, so that'll be 1 turn earlier at high noon. They will be available. Okay, and then the clock check. Alright, but we have more raids to go, so we don't have to worry about the clock check at this point. And a bad habit of doing that, but you flip the card face down, basically to help you remember how many raids there were in that particular time slot. Then we go back to the beginning again. We start the next raid. So here comes the next raid, which is going to be significantly bigger because this is a major raid. Okay, and it's a big raid, and I really, really want to get this raid because, of course, it is a raid that's going to be on industry. Okay? So, let me get everybody put here in the box, and I'll bring down my cards. And we'll take a look at things. Now, technically here, as you can see from the card, technically this was supposed to be the port, but I used my strategy card, the secondary target. Secondary target, we're heading for Southampton and the industry there. Okay, but notice the eligibility is based on the primary target value, which is 3. Now, normally I wouldn't be able to hit industry at all. Well, I could hit it with a minor raid at the at the 3 level, but since I'm using this strategy card, I get to do a major raid after this industry here. So basically I want to try and destroy British airplanes before they ever get into the air. So here we go. Now this is a much bigger raid, as you will see here in a second. Look at all those planes. Okay. Now when you deploy the German planes, one thing you have to keep in mind is the channel patrol box. Okay. Now I have 2, 4, 6 bombers. So notice bombers in raid, and then how many ME-109? So 6, I got to put 2 up there. So I'm going to go ahead and put up these 2 guys out over top of the channel to keep an eye on things there. Okay, so now I'm all set up. So now we go back to British detection. Now British detection this time obviously is going to be different because we got a boatload of German squadrons. So I rolled a 3 for detection. Okay. Now again, we take a look at the observer corps. Well, it is a 0, broken cloud. So no help from the observer corps for the British. Okay, radar nets 2, 3, and 4. Well, the good news is only 3 is functional, so that's going to be +2. Okay, but the number of planes in the raid, of course, we have 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. That's going to be 5. Okay, so 5 and 2 is 7 +3 on my die roll is going to give us 10. This time around, it's going to be late and accurate for the British. Okay? Now, this time we will have to do a raid rendezvous check. Alright? So basically we're going to roll die, and we're going to consult, whoops, once I get it off the floor, we're going to consult the raid rendezvous chart, which is, it's a little too close, right here. Okay, now I rolled a 6, so we look and see 15 or more Gruppen are in the raid. Well, remember I have 14, so lucky for me, no raid rendezvous failures. If I had one, then notice you roll a second die, and you can end up with reduced Gruppen or Gruppen who actually leave the raid. They never found the rally point, if you will, somewhere out there in the sky, which can be an unpleasant surprise. You know, we've planned that raid, and it's like, ah. So once again, Clausewitz sticks his head up and goes, aha, friction. So, this time I was fortunate. No problem with the raid rendezvous check. Alright, so now we check the British response. So remember, this time it was late for them. So let's see exactly how many squadrons we're going to get for the British with them being late. Okay, so late, there'll be 2 squadrons from 111. And that's it. They'll get 2. So we'll have 1 Hurricane, 1 Spitfire. That's it, potentially. And we may not even have that many. So notice hitting those radar stations has made a big, big difference. Okay, as well as the broken clouds too, and of course hitting the industry, because of course with the secondary target they had no idea that of course we were coming that way. All right, so they basically dropped the ball, if you will. Alright, so once again we got to check and see how many of these planes will actually respond. And the answer is, well, let's see. So, no worries with the dates. This is group 11, so that is +1. Let's see. Primary target. No, that doesn't qualify here. Target's not deep, no early morning. Intelligence is accurate. Okay, at least 1 bomber, so that's going to be +2, which is just a +3. Okay, intelligence is accurate, and 12 or more, so that's another 3. So that's actually +6 altogether. Okay, so once again, we're going to go ahead and add 6 to our die roll, which is a 2, which is an 8. That's going to be high, so none of them are going to be withdrawn from the pool. But we still have to check the intelligence, which means the British, you know, once they get their intelligence in here, which is fairly accurate, with only 2 squadrons managing to scramble, they might be like, crikey. Well, actually, that's Australia, isn't it? They're going to be like, blimey, we can't get up there. We only got 2 squadrons. It's a whole bunch of black buzzards. Which, of course, you know, or yellow, that's what they were, yellow-nosed buzzards. That's right, as I recall. So, accurate intelligence. Okay. So now we're going to check that here on the chart. And again, it is a solitaire game, so charts are your friends. And one thing I would say is, when you're first playing a brand new solitaire game, make sure you follow the sequence of play almost religiously so you don't skip anything or miss anything. Okay? So we do have accurate intelligence, number of Gruppen in the hunt box. Well, there's 2, 4, 6 of them all together. Response, no. So the squadrons will not respond. They will stay on the ground. Oh, well, Here I thought we'd go ahead and have a chance to see a battle in the air there, but it's just not going to happen. Alright, well, that's unfortunate. So, now we move on. Okay, we have the raid approach event. Let me go ahead and zoom back out here as we're on our way to the industry. There we go. So, approach event. Channel patrollers hunt. Okay. Well, this would have been beneficial to me, but unfortunately, it's not going to be any benefit to me here because there's no enemy squadrons around. So, alright. So with no squadrons here, the guys in the hunt box are actually going to go ahead and go to the in-flight box. So, which is good, because then they haven't basically expended themselves, and they'll be able to get back and recovered faster, although I really won't need them later in the day because everything else is coming from Luftfloat 2. Okay? So, there's no hunter attack. Alright, there is a raid target event. So we'll see what that is. And, oh, I hate this one. I gotta show you this. I hate this. This is the bane of my existence. Look at this. Non-essential target. Reduce bomb damage result by 1. Damage does not affect industry, airfield, or radar targets. So the whole point of doing this, which was to try and blast the industry, so that way we could come over here and knock down some of the replacement airplanes. I can't even do it now. Curses. Oh, I hate this crap. I'm like, you know, strike a match and light it on fire. You know, that event always seems to have the uncanny ability to show up when I really don't want it to. So, alright, we still get the bomb. And we basically will have the maximum amount here because we have a boatload of JU-88s and Henkel 111s. So those guys will go ahead and they'll drop their bombs even if it is non-essential. So even with the weather and everything else, it's just going to end up being a big blast. Oh, come on. I rolled a 1. Not as big a blast as I thought. So we reduce it by 1, right? Yep, so it's only 1 point of damage. I only get 1 victory point. No British squadron showed up, and all I get is 1 victory point. That's depressing. Alrighty. So, German recovery. So again, we'll move these guys to the in-flight box, and the bombers, of course, too. And then these guys will end up going to the clock, being 3 hours ahead because they're all doing just peachy. Nobody was reduced. They're all full, so to speak. Now the bombers, of course, will end up flying back to base and being spent for the day. They're done. Okay? Stick a fork in them. They're finished for the day. Alright? So, and I just usually, I mean, you know, strictly speaking, you're supposed to wait till the end of the turn and stuff, but I just send them over there and flip them down, as you can see what I'm doing right now. Just, you know, makes it go faster. And again, you know, it's a solitaire game, so it's not like somebody goes, hey, you can't do that. Well, I can if it doesn't affect gameplay. Thank you very much. Alright, now, we are going to move the clock ahead 1 hour, okay? And by doing that, we are going to do a clock check. Now what happens with that is any British planes, we got this one here, remember, that was reduced, they will be affected by that. Now what they will do is based on how much time passes. Now here, we're only passing 1 hour. So notice here we got the squadron turnaround, alright, after 1 time advance. And you just read the chart. So we have, in the in-flight box, we have a reduced one. They're going to land, flip to full. So this guy is going to head back home to his squadron, area, which is 410. So again, up here on the tote board, let's find 410. There they are, right there. So he's going to be landing flip to full. And then of course he'll need to rearm at some point too. Notice that that light loss one that suffered before on that small raid, they're in the light loss box. Okay, alright. I know this is running a little bit long, but I do want to give you a chance to see the British fighters intercept once, hopefully. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to move up on the clock one turn. We'll do one more raid here and see if we can make that happen. Alright. Okay, so again, we start off by bringing all the planes down to the combat box here. Okay, and this time I've got a bunch of bombers, but I also have some escorts, and I have a number of fighters as well. Okay, and again, I have to count my bombers here, which I have 2, 4, 6 bombers again. So that means 2 of these ME-109s have to go on channel patrol. Okay, so that's going to be, let's see, and we'll use this one and we'll go with this one. So these 2 guys will be on patrol, so that will give me a number of hunters in the box there of 5. Okay, now this particular one is Pathfinders that has to do with bombing, so we'll get to that when we get to it. But we're going after Kenley Airfield this time, so here we go. Alright, so I've got everything set up here from my end. British detection, so let's see what kind of detection they're going to get. Now this time, the observer core value is there, notice, because it's an inland target, not a coastal one. Of course, the farther you go in, the greater the chance of being spotted. So they rolled a 6 this time. Ooh, that's going to be big. Okay, so we've got 6, plus now we've got patchy clouds, so that's going to be a 4. So 6 and 4, that's 10. Okay, and radar nets are 4 and 5. Well, 4 is out of action, so that's 10 plus 2 more is 12. So actually, you know what, we'll do it that way. 4 and 2 is 6. And then the number of Gruppen in the raid, let's see, I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 altogether. So that's 6 and 5 is 11, 11 and 6 is 17. So the British are on it this time. It's early and it's accurate. Okay? Now, raid rendezvous check. Let's see if I have any problems with that. It's a 2. Let's see. 3 raids were planned for the current time segment. Nope. Only 2. So, again, whew, I dodged a bullet on the raid rendezvous check. Okay. British response. Now remember, this time it's early, so we're going to go over here to the early column. So notice how much difference this makes. So 3 squadrons from 211. 1, 2, 3. They're up in the air. 2 squadrons from 711. A couple of Hurricane squadrons up in the air. They're coming after us. 2 from 111 and London. London calling to the faraway towns. But there's nobody home in London, so nothing to worry about there. 2 more from 311 and 611. Well, there's 1 in 311, so we take what's available. And 611, we have 2 there. So, this is going to be huge, isn't it? And then 1 from 511 and 1 from 410. Whew. Man, oh man, oh man. So you stop and do the math on that. That is the potential of, well, let's see, how many? Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 British squadrons may be showing up. What? That's a lot. Okay, so we'll find out here in a minute whether that many actually do. Remember, you got to roll a die, and you got to see the priority on this. So let's find out. So we rolled a 4. All right. So let's come over here to the box. Get ourselves down here. There. All right. Okay, so this time we've got. Did I just say a 4? Yeah, we got a 4. So we got a 4 this time. All right. So the date is no effect. Sector 11, so that, or Group 11, that's +1. It is an airfield, so that is +3. Warning is only early, but intelligence is accurate. So +3, +5, +8, but we do have one more raid this time slot, so it's going to be +7. 7 and 4 is 11, so it's actually low. So 6 of the squadrons are going to be removed. So we'll reach into our pool here and see how many squadrons go home. Well, we know how many are going home. I should say, see if we're going to lose Spitfires or Hurricanes. Alright, well, it was an even split. 3 Hurricane squadrons were told to stand down, 3 Spitfires. So we'll have to put them back where they belong, into their group areas. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Some replacement unit music. Do 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 ch do 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 ch do 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 ch. All right. So now we have the other 6 that are available. Now the intelligence is accurate, so we got to check the intelligence here. There are 5 Gruppen in the hunt box. So 5 6+ squadrons. Oh yeah, it says yes. So that means it's on like Donkey Kong. Okay, so here come the 6 squadrons. Now notice, that means there's more than the Germans have available. But here you can see there is a nice little handy guide about what to do. So the number of Gruppen is less than squadrons, we're going to roll a die. If the die is less than or equal to the excess squadrons, they stay put. If it's higher, they're going straight to the bomber box. Okay, so basically the British have to roll a 1 for it to stay there, which is highly unlikely, but of course possible. It is a 17% chance though, so let's see what happens. It is a 1. Me and my big mouth. Okay, so let's put all these British squadrons in. And of course for the British, the more squadrons stay put, the greater their chance of inflicting damage. Of course, then again, one of them getting straight to the bomber box, of course, is also the possibility of causing damage there. Okay, so we got all the British set up. Alright, now we're going to intercept. Now we get the raid approach event. So let's see what happens next. Alright. So this says ME-109s in close escort. So move all C ME-109 from the hunt and in-flight boxes to the close escort. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's Lion. Wrong one. Eagle. Yeah, you got to watch that. See how there's the Alpha Lion? Eagle. Squadrons patrol elsewhere. Move all full C squadrons to eligible sectors to in-flight box. So now we got to go back to the map. And anybody that's a C squadron from any one of those sectors, they're going to go to the in-flight box. So 211, got 1. 711, nope. 111 in London. No. 311 and 611. Let's see. 611, yep, we have a winner. We do have 1 C. So they will go to the in-flight box because they were patrolling elsewhere for whatever reason. And 511 and 410, ones that are C also. Just the 511. There's nobody else in sector 410. Okay, so that pulls off those units for this particular case and time. Now, of course, that's not ones that are actually already on the intercept board, because notice we have a couple of C's. They stay put. That's only ones that haven't actually engaged. Okay, so squadron intercept. So we're going to have a big fight here. So again, we total up the number of Gruppen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is 5. And the total combat value here, well, we got 2 Spitfires, that's 8. We have 4 Hurricanes, so 4 times 3 is 12, that's 20. So 5 Gruppen with a value of 20. Let's see what happens. Alright, 5 rep and a value of 20. It's a 2. So the German A1s have a dash. So that means they'll go to the close escort box. And they'll be able to help out later on. There was only one of those. The B1s suffer light losses. I've got 2 Bs. So 1, 2. They'll be headed for the light loss box. Curses. And that's 2 victory points I just lost. So I'm going to put them in the light loss box. And I go down to 9 victory points. Letter C, they're disrupted. So they end up leaving and going to the in-flight box, flipped face down to their reduced side. Alright, the British here, let's see. Alright, A1's aborted. So there's 1A, so they'll go to the in-flight box, reduced. They aborted. They were forced to abort. B1 suffer light loss. Oh, good. So there's 2 Bs, so that will basically make up for my losses. And remember, they will go up here on the tote board. So we have 1 for 211, 1 for 311, and my victory points go back to 11. And then the C's end up with a disrupted result. So full squadron that's disrupted, they go to the bomber box, reduced. Okay, so here they go. Now, the escorts will end up sticking and matching up with planes, starting with the ones that the British squadrons are not engaging. Okay, I know that sounds a little odd, but that's how that works with this. I'm not sure exactly the logic of that and the rationale for it, but that is how that is set up whenever you do the fight in the bomber box. Okay, so if any Gruppen in the bomber box are not intercepted, then a matching number of Gruppen in the escort box are also considered not intercepted and are not included in the squadron attack. Okay, so I've got 3 that went intercepted, I've got 3 escorts, so unfortunately these Henkel 111s are all on their own, and there's a priority target for the RAF. 111s are first, then 88s, then 17s, and Ju-87s, etc. Okay, so those British planes are going to get basically a good free shot at the 111. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're planning your raids is if you don't put up a huge amount of escorts, you're going to have planes that are going to be on their own. Because obviously, you know, the British bombers would avoid, you know, the ones. I guess that is the logic behind that and stuff. So it's kind of late here. I'm getting a little fuzzy, I'll be honest with you. But I want to push through and get this finished so I can show you how all this works. Okay, so now we do the target event. Let's see what the target event's going to be. So the target event is Ultra Intercept. Now that doesn't affect this turn, but next turn that will help the British on their detection big time. That will basically make it very early and accurate. So I'll mark that up there. So let's see what happens here now. Now this time we only have 3 Gruppen. Okay, and remember it's the last number, so the Henkel's performance value are 6s, so that's 18, and then we got 2, 4, 6 here, so that's 24. So 3 Gruppen with a value of 24. Alright, 3 Gruppen, 24. Alright, so A's are disrupted. So he'll get disrupted, but he gets to stick around. The B's aborted, so they have to go away. And the C suffered light loss. So again, I got some more planes that are roughed up. I lose a victory point, and I'll have to be using some of those replacements there. For the British, they all were C's, okay? And they end up with a disrupted result. So again, we just consult the card, and we look and see these are units in the bomber box. It is a reduced squadron that is disrupted, so they'll go to the in-flight box reduced. Now, of course, that will affect them as far as their turnaround time goes, as we saw before with the last one there. And now, of course, we'll do our bombing run here, which will have 12, and 3 is 15 going after the airfield here. Modifiers for it. With that, on the 15, bombers were intercepted. There's no bombing, but there are patchy clouds, so we'll have to shift 1 to the left to the 12 to 14 column. So let's see if we manage to hit anything this time around or not for the damage. This time it's a 4. So this time it is 2 points of damage. So that's 2 victory points, so it takes it up to -12. And we also had damage on an airfield. Okay? Alright, number of squadrons equal to result are dispersed. So move from sector and rearm box to land. Then aircraft replacement points equal to the result are lost as well too. So we did hit the airfield at 211. There's only 1 hurricane there, so the hurricane will go to the land box. They got dispersed, and 1 hurricane replacement is reduced, so that drops it from 10 to 9, and that's the end of the raid. Okay, so last thoughts here on this. This is a game that is a good solitaire game. It is a tough game to beat. I've won games, I've lost games. Like with any one of Butterfield's designs, if you win, you do feel like you accomplished something. And this game is no exception. I'll be honest, I rarely play the Lion version anymore. I like playing the Eagle version. I don't know why. I always enjoy being the aggressor when I play games. So I don't know why. I guess, that's just me. Probably because I'm not like that in normal life. So, it's like an outlet, I guess you could say. Something to try, if you will. So, again, this is very much, if you notice, a narrative game. There's not a whole lot of choices to make here. You do have some choice. You got to choose your target cards, but even that's kind of limited depending on the value for it, which of course is done by the high command. So you're kind of like the theater commander in this game. And by the way, the German raid target priorities and stuff can change by an event. So keep that in mind. What you start the game with may not necessarily be what you end up with later on down the road. So again, it's the kind of amount, to me, it's the kind of amount of decisions you would expect if you were a theater commander. This is what you expect to see with that kind of thing. So that's how I kind of look at this, if you will. So, but it is more narrative than, say the amount of decisions you have to make in a game that's more complicated than that. I'm trying to think of something that springs to mind pretty quickly here. That's a solitaire game where there's a lot of decisions to be made constantly. Nothing springing to mind off the top of my head, but this one to me feels like more of a narrative kind of thing. But again, there is the input, there is the decisions where it's not like the Hunters, the U-boat thing. It's not, or like Target for Today. It's not that limited. It's kind of somewhere in between. That and, say, D-Day at Tarawa, because you do have a lot of decisions to make there with D-Day at Tarawa, because you choose which units to activate and all that kind of stuff. So I guess that's a good way to say this is kind of in between. I like this game. To me, it's the best game on the Battle of Britain. I enjoy it thoroughly. I played the West End version to death when I found out about it, and then of course when I heard about this reprint, I gobbled it up, especially as soon as I found out that you could play the Eagle side as well as the Lion side. So, it's always good to hang out with old friends, so to speak. So I'm just kind of revisiting this as winding down the year and trying to decide where I want to go next as far as playing games and stuff goes. Nothing until new games, new releases, nothing until January when Pacific Tide comes out. And I was on the fence for a long time. I did pre-order Thunder in the East from Victory Point Games, because I just can't get enough of the Eastern Front. And from what I saw online, there's some intriguing aspects to the game. So it's enough for me to basically, want to do that. So I'll probably do a video in between, though, somewhere along the line of something that I enjoy. So this has been Tim Korchnoi from Bare Bones Wargaming, saying thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed this and help you make a decision about RAF, the Battle of Britain. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.